Welcome back to part 12 and the penultimate part of the Pokemon Let's Go Eevee for the Nintendo Switch playthrough. In this episode, we're doing two things. Well, three actually. We are going to fight Greatest Trainer, Giovanni. We are then going to fight the rival, Tracy, who I named after someone else. And then we are going to make it through the Elite Four. The Elite Four. We are going to make it through Victory Road catching the Moltres. Truth be told, this extra addition to the story is not needed here with demonstrating Blue and Oak, having them talk to our player character in the rival. We should have just been able to go against the final gym once we defeated Blaine. That's when it should have opened. But I guess they added this because they wanted to add that whole mega evolution to the game. Personally, I've never been a fan of these gimmicks post Gen 6 onward. I don't even like megas at all. I'm going to show it off in this playthrough because it's in the game, so I might as well show it. But overall, my thoughts on this mechanic are not too favorable. Personally, I think that it's unneeded and that this game really should focus more on being this turn-based RPG that is mostly strategic, featuring a rock, paper, scissors mechanic, rather than attempting to add an additional gimmick to add more flavor. I would rather the actual game itself implement new locations and take its region in a new light, focusing on the region, making the region as good as it possibly can be, rather than having them just say, hey, new mechanic, that's why you play this one, and not... Because the truth is that Johto, Hoenn, and Sinnoh are very different regions in their construction. And I remember the games for their region construction and for the encounterable Pokemon there. But I honestly could not tell you much about Gen 6 and 7 other than their mechanics. And truthfully, if you were to ask me to name a city in any post-Gen 5 location, I honestly couldn't. I just do not care enough to memorize it. Because I don't even think the game does either. And instead, what I think happens is I memorize the gimmick of that generation, and I pretty much hyper focus on that. Maybe it's just me, but when I think about the best cities in this franchise, I don't think a single time has happened where I think of anywhere past Gen 5. I think the only time where that had happened, where I think about a location that already didn't exist in the first 5 gens, would probably be Lumio City, for being the at the time biggest city in the series. But that was mostly because of the jump to 3D for X and Y, rather than that city being any marvel. Truth be told, Castelia City is better in black and white, but maybe it's because it was new and I was besmitten by the novelty of having a fully 3D map. But other than that, I can't really think of many locations in this series where I'm truly at a point where the cities are that great. Admittedly, this is a problem mostly with me, considering that when I play Pokemon, I tend to just replay the first 5. Not for any reason behind... Not for any disdain for the newer games. In fact, I think the newer games are fine. I just think that the first 5 games are more replayable. I can beat Gen 1, and then the next day, play through Gen 1. It's a weird feeling, but that's just how it goes. I really can't do that with Scarlet and Violet. I played through Scarlet and Violet for the channel, and I honestly cannot see myself replaying that game ever again, outside of maybe showing something off for YouTube content. For personal enjoyment, that game is not getting touched again. And that's the mentality. Here we have the final gym leader of the game, Giovanni. They nerfed him for this game, which is something that I'm blatantly against. He was already easy in Gen 1. They nerfed him for the remake, and now he's nerfed again here. Which really takes a bit of the threat away. At least you could argue that to a small child who doesn't understand type matchups, he's pretty hard. But once you learn the type matchups, it really doesn't... There's no justification for it. It's just not difficult in the slightest. I do have to give credit where credit is due, mind you. The Diglett here actually knows something other than a ground move, meaning that you can't just stall it out like you can in the original Gen 1. But once again, most of the difficulty with Gen 1 tends to appear when you don't know how to exploit the game's AI. When you know how to exploit the game's AI, then Gen 1 becomes the laughing stock for how easy it is. But again, that's something that you only get when you watch YouTube tutorials or when you've played that game for many, many years. During your first playthrough of Gen 1, you'll be surprised how often, assuming you're not manipulating the AI, that game puts a trainer in front of you that just kicks your ass for no reason. My favorite example is the Eradicate trainer in Mount Moon for Team Rocket. That guy can easily lead to a full party wipe if you're not ready and if you play poorly. You can't really rely on a lot of the tactics that you can get away with in early Gen 1 against him. You have to just be on the offensive, super aggressive, and never give him an inch to breathe. Because if you give him time to play the game, then that Rocket Grunt will wipe your team. And it's happened to not just me, but many others. Okay, the infamous Eradicate is the most famous example. Also, Misty's Starmie, who, once again, is a great example of teaching the player the game. If you actually go out of your way to grind the Weedle into a Beedrill and have it learn Twin Needle, then Misty's a joke. But not everyone does that. Some people just go in there with their Grass Starter and the Pikachu. And you go with just the Pikachu, you're screwed, because Misty's Starmie has enough base stat total to completely wall out the Pikachu and then defeat it. So they also put Oddish or Bellsprout there in your other version, and that's why I think that this game is a masterclass in the Pokemon series for teaching you how to play the Pokemon game. Because this game was nerfed in this reimagining, a lot of the tenets of Pokemon are lost. A lot of the stuff you can learn from Gen 1 is lost, and I'm not the biggest fan of that. I do praise the newer graphics for this when compared to the Game Boy game. I do praise the animations because, well, the Game Boy game didn't have any. But at the end of the day, this is just an upscale 3DS game that nerfs all the intricacies of Gen 1 to give you a lesser experience of Gen 1. Not that I hate Gen 1. Gen 1 is fine. In fact, I think Gen 1 is great, and I love the Gen 1. This game, it just feels like a lesser version of Gen 1, and while I have said it before, I still recommend people get this game if they want to experience Gen 1 nowadays. Because, truth be told, tracking down a working Game Boy, a Gen 1 cartridge, either red, blue, yellow, or in my case green, because I asked for the Japanese green for my birthday one time, and my dad got it for me. Thank you very much, Dad. But, unless you want to do all that and track it down, this is just more convenient to get. Okay, if you really want to say emulation, then yeah, get an emulator and play Gen 1. And if you don't want to play Gen 1, play Leaf Green Fire Red. I think this is probably the weakest version of Gen 1. The Switch version. But it's still the Kanto region, so I still like it at a fundamental level. It's a weird way to say it, but that's just the way I see it. And now we go up against the rival battle. In the original game, this was actually the hardest rival battle because his execute wasn't nerfed. I don't know why they nerfed the execute in the champion fight. I guess it's because they figured you'd be out of PP by that point, so they had to give you a fighting chance, especially considering that in the original Gen 1, by the time you get to the Elite Four, when they're using the level 60 Pokemon, your highest member is probably 45, typically 42 on average. So it makes sense that they nerfed the teams a little bit. But here, why does he have 4 Pokemon? This is the rival fight. This is supposed to be the guy who challenges you, the player, and forces you to play at your best to overcome the challenge. But because he's not even bringing a full team with you, I question, between here and Pokemon League, that means that he caught 2 more Pokemon, trained them up, and then fought the Elite Four and won. In the time after we beat him, meaning we have a head start, and he still beats us to the Elite Four. Okay, I have to give credit where credit's due. This rival, on merit, if you just look at it at a in-universe perspective, is a great trainer. But you wonder, this guy got all 8 gym badges at these levels with these mechanics and only has 4 Pokemon? How? Literally how? I know that this is a kid's game and it's not supposed to be taken seriously, but the thing is, I'm not a little kid anymore. I can notice these things that I couldn't notice before. Sure, if I was a little kid, I probably would never have noticed this, let alone complained about it. It's just one of those... It's one of those nerd moments, when you have nerd energy coming out of you, and you just hyper-analyze things when realistically you do not need to. But that's just me, okay? Either way, this Raichu shows up. This Raichu's an absolute cakewalk. Watch this absolute victory over it. Sizzy Slide and Psychic defeat the Raichu in 1 round. Maybe this is part of the problem with doing this multiplayer. It really does kill all the challenge. But at the same time, I've beaten this game single player. It's not a hard game. I don't know what Arlo was saying when he said that if you get rid of your starter, this is one of the hardest Pokemon games. It's really not. This game is a joke from beginning to end. But then again, I don't know. Maybe it's because I've been playing Pokemon. I've played the entire series at this point, so maybe I just don't see the difficulty anymore. Maybe I've just learned everything I can about the single player. Because when I play multiplayer, I get my ass beat a lot. I lose quite frequently in the multiplayer. But maybe it's because I just play single player so much, I know all the fundamentals of the Pokemon single player, and because of that, I'm able to absolutely demolish the game. But that doesn't sit right with me. I don't know how to phrase it. It's a bit difficult to phrase it now that I think about it. I do want to know what you guys think. Do you think Pokemon has gotten significantly easier over the years like I do? Or are you of the belief that, nah, we're just older? I'm curious. I'm genuinely curious about that. Now, here we have Victory Road, and this is probably one of the few times I'm going to praise the reimagining over the original Gen 1. The original Gen 1, to use an HM, you had to go into your menu, press strength, and then move the fucking boulder. Here, you just press A. And honestly, it saves so much time. It's so much easier. Similar to the Seafoam Islands, I'm actually going to be taking advantage of the power of editing, but here's a rare instance where I'm actually going to show a trainer battle. Mostly because I didn't know this about Ditto. When your opponent uses Ditto on your Eevee and transforms, they keep your outfit. And I think it's cute. I really do think it's cute. I honestly didn't expect them to do that. I like that they showed this. This little effort shows that they actually still cared about the games around this time. While I do think that the last time they had their grand hurrah was Black and White 2, I don't think they stopped caring. I just think that they put less effort into it. They still care about the series. This is their MO. This is their modus operandi. This is the reason Game Freak still makes games, because of Pokemon. Honestly, I think that Game Freak shouldn't work on other projects just because I know they don't sell. They don't sell. The only projects that sell from Game Freak is Pokemon. So in other words, they need to get their, I don't know what they're doing there, but they need to get their team together and produce a fire Pokemon game. It doesn't even have to be a Pal World clone, which I know some people were talking about. No, absolutely not. It doesn't need to do that. It could even still be the turn-based game. But just make it good. And if you're not going to do that, then give me back my sprite-based games, Game Freak. I want a sprite-based Pokemon game again. I'll probably replay the hell out of it. And because it's a sprite-based game, I know for a fact it doesn't cost as many resources to make it. I understand that the casuals, the filthy casuals, honestly, those pricks are out there hating on sprite-based games, saying, oh no, that's outdated. It's tech from the 90s. We shouldn't be doing that. But no, I think sprite-based, you can make a sprite-based game and it looks beautiful. I can boot up Black and White 2, Black and White 1, Heart Gold, Soul Silver, or Platinum, and I still think the game looks great. Yeah, the resolution is not as good as it should be, but that's because it was on a tiny screen. So that's forgivable. The art style makes up for it, and it looks great even today. This game also still looks good. You know, let's go Eevee and Pikachu. But even then, you can notice that the graphical textures are still dated. Now, don't get me wrong, I will stand by the statement that Legends Arceus compared to this game is significantly better. Significantly. But that's mostly because of the movement mechanics, the combat mechanics. I think that Legends Arceus has the best combat in the series for the turn-based combat. Honestly, if the Legends Arceus combat became the de facto combat, which is basically Neptunia 1 combat, I'm kid you not, then I would be down for it, okay? I don't know why we still have this simultaneous turn-based system instead of a true turn-based system like Legends Arceus. Yeah, that's right. Pokemon technically only had a turn-based system in Gen 1 because you made a move and then the opponent made a move. Whereas nowadays, it is a simultaneous turn-based system in both multiplayer and single player because you guys make moves at the same time. I know that's, once again, this is nerd discussion that most people probably don't care about. But I care about it because that's just who I am. And honestly, this Victory Road, I'm not gonna lie, I think that the worst Victory Road still is Scarlet and Violet's Victory Road because it's so bad. There's nothing there. It's a straight line. A literal straight line. So yeah, I still think Scarlet and Violet, I still respect this game for keeping the original Victory Road, all the puzzles in it, and for respecting the player's intelligence to go through it. What I won't respect is them just making Victory Road a literal straight line in 2 games after. Well, 3 actually, because this is the first Switch game. No, 4 because the remakes. Yeah. I mean, for the Switch titles, this is probably the best one. If you want to count, like, pure traditional Pokemon game experience, this is probably the best one for the Switch. I do believe this is a better game than Sword and Shield, and this is a better game than Scarlet and Violet, definitely. Legends Arceus, maybe not. Legends Arceus, I think, might be better. But that's for completely different reasons. It's not because I think it is mechanically the best or that it has the best Pokedex. Gosh, no. I don't think Legends Arceus has that at all. Overall, though, I still enjoy this a lot. And here we got to the fight with Moltres. Moltres is an interesting case as well. This is finally the first time I show a wild battle since the Articuno fight, which means that all of my unearned captures go to hell here. This capture was 100% earned. I worked for this capture. I earned this capture. It is my capture. I don't know why I said it like that, but that is how I said it. Moltres goes down rather quickly. We just beat it up for a little bit, take rid of its HP, and then throw a bunch of Ultra Balls at it until it stays in. The difference, however, is that this guy takes an absurd amount of Ultra Balls to capture in the first place. And I respect that. I really do. Look at that. We finally beat it, and now we get the Moltres stuff. I think it'll be cool, though, because, well, this actually feels like a legendary capture. Whereas, frequently, it doesn't in the new games. It feels like they just give you the capture in the new games. But maybe that's just me. Besides that, after a few more Ultra Balls, this guy gets out again, but eventually he gets in. Okay, that's the point. The point is that eventually we get the Moltres. Will we ever see these guys? Absolutely not, because I just do not care to catch them. But we could have seen them. I don't know. Maybe. So close. That's right. Moltres has been gotten. Right? It's this one? Oh my goodness, I completely forgot how many attempts I tried at this. How many times did I try to catch this guy? I don't know. Maybe I should have done what Johnny Ortiz did, where he just cuts to every single Pokeball thrown and doesn't re-show the animation. But I think it's because I was looking into just the idea of how realistically this capture should go that I kept it in. I mean, seriously, look at how many Ultra Balls this guy is getting out of. It's so funny. Come on. Get in. Get in. Oh, finally. So we finally catch the Moltres, meaning that all we have left to do is to get out of Victory Road. Now, Victory Road, otherwise known as Champion Road in Japanese, is one of the easiest dungeons in the franchise. No questions asked. I know that not everyone agrees with that statement, but I agree with it, and that's the point. We'll go back up where we came from and complete another rock puzzle. I'm glad that they decided to move the rock closer to the solution here because it just saves so much time. Genuinely. When I look back at the original Victory Road and how long it took to get through this place in the original on cartridge, this is probably an instance where I think that the reimagining here does a much better job than the original and Leaf Green Fire Red. But this is just a minute advantage over the originals. I'm not going to say that Gen 1 is the superior version in every single way. No, absolutely not. But when it comes to some of their parts, I think Gen 1, the original on cartridge, is the best. Now, somebody made a little ROM hack that just took Gen 1 and put both versions Pokemon in every location. Honestly, that version is really good because it gives you the most freedom for your team composition. But that's once again a case of fan hack and not official material. You know, part of me wishes that they would end the two version nonsense. I know that they do it for tradition's sake at this point. I don't think it's really necessary, mind you. I think that honestly they should stop with that and just end the two version nonsense. Just give us a single version. Legends Arceus proved that it works better. More people liked it. And it really is a shame that they didn't have multiplayer battle in Legends Arceus. I really think that would have become the metagame. They would have kept that battle system in, and it would have been absolutely fire. But they don't, and I don't know why. Either way, we're gonna go through here, launch this rock down this pit, follow suit, and then go left, pushing the rock to the left until it hits the switch, and then we can go up those stairs there, and then get out of here. Man, I really gotta point out that this is probably an instance where they did mess up. I shouldn't have to press A every single time with the rock. Once I press A, it's active, so I can just push it forward by tapping it. I think the reason they added the A presses here is because it's a 3-dimensional space now instead of a 2-dimensional space. So it's harder to accurately predict where you want the rock to go. But at the same time, I think that they could have found a way around it. I really do. I don't think that it had to be done this way in particular. I do like that the Eevee becomes shiny when it does happen, though. Also, the fact that the rock is shown moving, I guess it's considered good design. I don't know. Personally, I think it wastes time, but maybe to the newcomer, they'll probably be confused about why suddenly they can move past the location. Or maybe it's because it's a 3-dimensional space and... No, because if it's a 3-dimensional space, then it would be more obvious. I think that's just the case of the game creators treating the player like a child. Not to be fair to Pokemon, their target audience is children. But maybe it's just me, but I think the majority of children are playing games like Call of Duty or Fortnite. I think adults are mostly playing this series. You know, it's always funny to me when I hear people complain about Zelda dungeons being super easy. Because, yeah, they are in Tears of the Kingdom. But at the same time, Zelda is not exactly rated M for mature. I mean, I still gotta give respect to them, though. They were more difficult puzzles than God of War Ragnarok, which is M for mature, and honestly, I think that puzzle design was an embarrassment. We finally made it to the Pokemon League, ladies and gentlemen, meaning that in the next episode, we're gonna take on the Pokemon League in our quest to become the most powerful trainer in the world! They completely... I can't believe they removed that line. They changed it to something else. Also, that shadow looks weirdly pixelated. Odd. But now we have taken our Eevee and we're going to go into that building to fight the Elite Four and Champion. So that's it for today, everybody. Have a nice day.